Okay, let's talk about home security. I know, it can feel like this huge, kind of overwhelming topic, right? But it really doesn't have to be. We're going to break it all down and turn it into a practical, actionable plan. And it all starts with one simple shift in how you see your own home.
So, I want you to really think about this question. The foundation of any good security plan is to stop thinking like you, the homeowner, and start thinking like an intruder. And what are they looking for? Well, they're not looking for a challenge. They're looking for the path of least resistance, the easiest target on the block.
And that idea leads us straight to the core strategy for our whole plan, something we call a layered defense. Think of your home's security like an onion. Seriously, we're not trying to build Fort Knox here. The goal is just to add layers of obstacles and deterrents that make a potential intruder's job harder and riskier with every single step they take.
So here's our game plan. We're going to walk through 5 key sections. First, we'll get inside the criminal mindset. Then we'll build our defense from the outside in, starting with your perimeter, then your home's shell, and finally, your interior. And last but not least, we'll cover what is arguably the most important part, the human element, your plan.
All right, section 1. Think like an intruder. Because, before you can build a wall, you've got to understand who's trying to climb it.
Get this number in your head. 3 minutes. This is what's known as the 3-minute rule. See, most burglars are opportunists. They're not some master thieves from a movie. They want to be in, grab what they can, and be out in under 3 minutes. So if you can just make breaking in look like it's going to take longer than that, they'll often just move on. Your goal isn't to be impenetrable, it's just to be inconvenient.
Which brings us to this perfect analogy. You've probably heard this before, right? You don't need the most secure house in the entire world. You just need to be a slightly harder target than the house next door. It's all about sending a clear signal that your place isn't worth the time or the risk, encouraging them to just keep on walking.
So, with that mindset, let's build our first layer of defense, your perimeter. The goal here is really simple. Make your home look like an undesirable target from the moment a criminal even sees it from the street.
So how do we actually do that? Well, it's all about sending signals. Motion-activated lights, for example, they get rid of all those dark corners that criminals absolutely love. Thorny bushes under your windows? Pretty painful to turn. Gravel pads are fantastic because they're noisy and impossible to sneak across quietly. And of course, a good dog's one of the best early warning systems you could ever ask for. Every single one of these things creates another little obstacle. And hey, don't ever underestimate the power of psychology. Check this out. According to security experts, just having a simple sign for a security system in your yard, even if it's a decoy, can decrease your chances of being targeted by as much as 400%. That's huge. It's not about the actual lock, it's about creating the perception of risk that makes them move on.
Okay, next up is layer 2, your home's shell. So if an intruder decides to ignore all those warning signs on your perimeter, this is where we physically slow them down at the most common entry points, your doors and your windows.
All right, listen up because this is probably the single cheapest, fastest, and highest impact security upgrade you can possibly make. Standard doors, they're installed with these tiny half-inch screws that barely even go into the soft wood of the door frame. One good kick and that whole thing just splinters. But when you replace them with 3-inch screws, you are anchoring that door directly into the solid wall studs of your house. The difference in strength is just massive. And the best part, you can do this yourself in literally minutes. Just replace the existing screws on your hinges and, this is the most important part, on the metal strike plate where your deadbolt locks in. It is such a tiny change, but it completely transforms the strength of your door. Now, windows are your other major weak point, but you've got options here too. Security film is fantastic. It holds shattered glass together, which makes getting in really slow and noisy. For sliding doors or windows, you really can't beat a simple wooden dowel rod laid in the track. And for just a few dollars, you can get these tiny contact alarms that will let out this piercing shriek the second a window is opened, which is usually enough to send an intruder running. So let's move inside to our third and final physical layer, the interior. This is our game plan for what to do if, despite everything we've done, someone actually gets inside your home.
The core of your interior plan is the safe room. Now, when I say that, don't picture some steel-lined panic room from a movie. It's much simpler. It is just a pre-designated room, usually the master bedroom works great, that everyone in the family knows to go to. All it needs is a solid door that you can lock and, if needed, barricade.
Remember, the whole point of the safe room is to buy you time, precious time to call for help and wait for it to arrive. So you want to make sure these essentials are already inside. a fully charged cell phone to call 911, a flashlight in case the power gets cut, and of course, any personal protection tools that you are trained and comfortable using.
And that brings us to our final, and honestly, our most critical section. Because all the locks, all the lights, all the cameras in the world, they don't really matter if you don't have a plan. Security is a system, and you are the most important part of it.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? In the middle of an emergency, with adrenaline pumping through your system, you are not going to have time to think. You are going to fall back on your training. And that is why having a plan, and actually practicing it, is the single most important thing you can do. So, what does that family plan actually look like? Well, it's got 4 pretty simple parts. First, designate that safe room. Second, create a code word, something totally unique that means go there now, no questions asked. Third, you got to assign roles. Whose job is it to call 911? Who's responsible for grabbing the kids? And finally, you have to practice. Just like a fire drill, a calm walkthrough builds the muscle memory you're going to rely on in a crisis.
Look, I know this can all seem like a lot, but remember this key idea. You don't have to do it all at once. The whole point of this is to give you a roadmap. So just pick one thing from this plan, just one, and do it this week. Maybe it's buying those 3-inch screws. Maybe it's just sitting down with your family and deciding on a code word. Every single small step makes you safer. Ultimately, a good security plan isn't about fear. It's about creating peace of mind. It's about knowing that you've taken practical, sensible steps to protect what matters most. So, as we wrap this up, I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What is your first step going to be?